Hi, I'm Father Jedidiah, and this is our third video in our Parts of the Mass series, part of our Year of the Eucharist videos at the Petersburg parishes. And so on this third video, we're going to talk about our immediate preparation for Mass. In the first video, we talked about Mass being the holy sacrifice, that Christ gives himself to us in the Eucharist as the perfect sacrifice for the salvation of our souls. In the second video, we talked about our remote preparation for Mass. So when we're far away from Mass, just the way we live our life prepares us for Mass, especially seeking to be in the state of grace. That's our remote preparation. And now third, we talk about our immediate preparation. So right when we're ready to go to Mass, maybe even in the car or right when we get to the church, how do we prepare well to pray the Mass? Because that's really what we're doing. We're not just there watching, we're there to pray. We're there to pray the Mass. And so one of the best ways that we can prepare for Mass well is to read the readings beforehand, and especially to pray with the readings beforehand, maybe Lectio Divina, or just taking some time to read, especially the Gospel for Mass, but read the readings beforehand and just spend some time in silence praying with those readings and allow the Lord to speak to you through His Word. And there's a lot of great ways to do that. It's easier than ever to read the readings for Mass. You can get on the USCCB's website, the United States Bishops. On their website, they have all the readings for every Mass, every day of the liturgical year. There's an app called iBreviary that has all the readings for Mass and all the prayers for Mass. And so it's really easy to find the readings for Mass. Or if you have a subscription to Magnificat, a lot of folks like the Magnificat magazine, and that has the readings for Mass. So find a way to read the readings beforehand so that it's already in your mind. You're already thinking about, okay, what's the, theme of this Mass going to be, if we want to put it like that? What's the Gospel going to be? What's Christ speaking to me through these readings? And then hopefully the priest's homily helps add something to that. Maybe it challenges you in a way. Maybe it just makes it a little bit more confusing. I don't know. But you've already prayed with it. You're already sitting there with the Word of God, and now you're allowing the rest of the prayers of Mass to help continue to develop that in your heart. So you're not just hearing it for the first time while you're sitting in the pew. So that's something to think about. That's a great way we can prepare for Mass. The night before or the morning of is to pray with the readings for Mass. Maybe read them to your family in the evening during the week, so that by the time you come to Sunday Mass, your whole family knows the readings, something like that. Number 2 is observe the Eucharistic Fast. The Church asks us that we refrain from eating or drinking anything except water an hour before we receive the Eucharist. And what this does is just kind of builds the habit of desiring the Lord. So it just reminds us, takes us back to that proverb of man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So we're feasting on the Word made flesh in the Eucharist, and so we refrain from lesser food. So the Eucharistic fast is like really, really easy. Nowadays, like an hour before communion, that's like 30 minutes before Mass. All right, so that's pretty easy to do. And that also includes gum. So please don't chew gum at Mass. And if you do, you shouldn't receive communion at that Mass because you haven't fasted. So that's something to keep in mind. But the Eucharistic fast, going back to the early centuries of the Church, and this is like in the 2nd century, there was a writer named Saint Hippolytus, and he wrote what's called the Apostolic Tradition. So he gave us a lot of practices of the early Church in Rome in the first couple centuries. And Hippolytus, one of the things he wrote was that the Christians would fast from midnight onward before attending Mass, so that the first thing they ate that day they attended Mass was the Holy Eucharist. So the Church does not oblige us to do that now, but maybe that's something to consider taking on, especially if you go to an earlier Mass on a Sunday morning or daily Mass. Consider making that the first thing you eat in the day, and it really kind of builds that habit or cultivates a habit where we look to the Lord as our principal provider, and we look to the bread of angels instead of just our daily bread, whatever food we're eating. So that's another thing. An hour before we receive the Eucharist, but consider doing a little bit more, right? If we want to be like the early Christians, a little bit more traditional, like 1st, 2nd century traditional, fast until Mass. Think about it. And then the third thing and last thing, best way to prepare ourselves before Mass is get here early enough to spend some time recollecting yourself. So hopefully you've already prayed with the readings. You kind of have those on your mind. come to Mass, I don't know, just 5-10 minutes before it starts, and just take some time to maybe reread the readings, maybe look over some of the prayers for this Mass in the Missalette, but just kind of quiet your heart, quiet your soul, turn off those distractions in our mind and all the noise outside of the church, and just kind of prepare ourselves to pray the Mass well. So 3 ways to immediately prepare for Mass. Read the readings beforehand, observe the fast, maybe do a little bit more than just an hour before the Eucharist, and get to Mass early enough to recollect ourselves. So hopefully those help, and hopefully you find that you pray Mass better next time you attend. So God bless. We'll see you next time.